Continuing on with more lymphoid organs, we're looking into the tonsils. Now, the tonsils are actually not just one single thing, but several different groupings together. And they are really the simplest of the lymphoid organs. And I'll explain why they're simple in a second, but from these tonsils themselves, they're all around the entire pharynx. Think about around the throat. They're meant to try and protect from things entering into the mouth and even potentially the nose a little bit. So first one up is going to be the palatine tonsils. The palatine tonsils, these are the ones you can see when you look back in your throat. If you say you have swollen tonsils, you're seeing the palatine tonsils. They're at the posterior side of the oral cavity. Next one up is the lingual tonsils. Now, the lingual tonsils you cannot see by simply looking in the mouth. I know it says base the tongue, but your tongue goes back and down your throat partially. So unless you put a mirror where you can look down or a camera to look down, you're not seeing the lingual tonsils. Pharyngeal tonsils. Now the pharyngeal tonsils are higher up. They're up in the nasopharynx. So think nose, go straight back. Again, you can't see them by looking in because they're too high up. And the last one are the tubal tonsils. They're going around the auditory tubes for the ears, so they're off the side and down a little bit. Again, you can't see them from looking in the mouth. So for all four of these, the only one you can see looking in the mouth is going to be your palatine tonsils. The other three, you can put a camera or a mirror, you might be able to see a little more here and there. But big thing here is when you say it's swollen tonsils, you're talking about your palatine tonsils. So again, why was I saying the tonsils are a very simple organ? What the tonsils are is going to be epithelial tissue over the tonsil masses. That's about it. That's really all they are. The way this works then is you're going to have this epithelial tissue over the tonsil mass, creates this crypt, comes back up, goes over, creates another crypt, goes up. You have these indents, these crypts, and that's how the tonsils work. The crypts allow the trapping of bacteria and then the destruction of bacteria. Because think about it. Bacteria pretty much always enjoy moisture. They like warmth. They like darkness. The crypts of the tonsils have all that covered. And plus, simply having things pass beyond the tonsils, as it rubs by, things get shoved into those crypts. Bacteria in there simply get destroyed. There's a great way of creating a trap that then allows the tonsils to destroy the bacteria. So try and see where these are in the body. So this view right here, you can see it's blown up over the side. That's where you're seeing the pharyngeal tonsils. Right here, the back of the nasopharynx, a little more visible right there. Then if you go down to the throat, where you're looking at the base of the tongue, that's this box, and it's blown up down here. So what you're seeing here now is these are the palatine tonsils here and here. And then you're going to have the actual lingual tonsils here and the base of the tongue there. So from this particular cut, this is a mid-sagittal cut, you can see those three. The tubal tonsils are more lateral, so you can't see them in this particular cut. So when you think about this, you're seeing these three here in this view. If you're thinking about when the tonsils are swollen, this is what you're seeing. What you're actually seeing here is the palatine tonsil here and here. Those are enlarged and pushing into the throat. That makes it more difficult to swallow food, liquid, and even breathe. So the actual palatine tonsils are visible through the actual mouth. All right, moving on from the tonsils. There are some other lymphoid, I can call them aggregates or groupings of cells. One is going to be the Peyer's patches. Now, these Peyer's patches are found in the small intestines, specifically the distal portion of the small intestines. So think back to AP1, that term distal, further away. Distal was meaning, in this case, the small intestines that are further from the stomach, closer to the large intestines. And what's happening here is these Peyer's patches are embedded in the submucosa of the intestine's wall. What they're trying to do is watch out for any pathogens, any bacteria that shouldn't be there. And the idea is they're trying to clear out these pathogens and bacteria. Now I keep saying the bacteria that shouldn't be there. Your intestines naturally have bacteria present. That's completely normal. The Peyer's patches are not meant to get rid of that bacteria. What they're looking for is things that shouldn't be there. But these type of patches, these groupings of cells, aren't unique to only in the small intestines. The appendix also has similar clustering of cells and tissues. That means the appendix is also looking to try to get rid of bacteria. Now, both the appendix and the Peyer's patches are meant to destroy the bacteria. We've already said that. But the other function is generating memory lymphocytes. What these are, these lymphocytes can recognize a foreign particle, so recognize a foreign antigen, and then they store that memory. So therefore, in the future, if you see that same pathogen again, that same antigen, you can recognize that cell surface marker, that antigen, and destroy it faster because you know what it is. So you're building up this library of memories of things that you've seen, things that you've encountered, and knowing how to get rid of them faster in the future. So looking here, these are the Peyer's patches. Right here, here, and there. Those four components are the Peyer's patches that are embedded in the submucosa of the small intestines, the distal portion of the small intestines. All right, take those Peyer's patches, take the appendix, add in the tonsils, and together they're collectively referred to as MALT, mucosal-associated lymphatic tissue. Pretty much MALT is going to be all the lymphatic tissues throughout the GI tract that are meant to help protect the entire intestinal, stomach, esophagus, pharynx, everything. So these are all the lymphatic tissues of the GI tract. Because if you think about it, your GI tract is actually external environment. You can have something go in your mouth and it can pass right on through and come out the other side. So you're ingesting this food, which is not sterile. The only way you can make it sterile is to have your hands completely sanitized, which you naturally have bacteria on them, so that's hard. The instruments you eat with then, fork, spoon, knife, plate, they have to be completely sanitized. Not just sitting in a cupboard, not sitting around because that can get bacteria on them. The food itself has to be completely cooked and sterilized, which usually we don't do. So there is some bacteria on the food that we're eating. So therefore, some's going into our systems. MALT here, mucosal-associated lymphatic tissue, is meant to help prevent us from getting sick from those. Now, it's not foolproof. Sometimes things do still get us sick, but this helps out with the majority of what we do end up ingesting. Now, that was the GI tract. The counterpart in the respiratory system is called BALT, B-A-L-T, or bronchus-associated lymphatic tissue. This bronchus-associated lymphatic tissue is the way of helping prevent infections in the respiratory tract. Because the air we breathe, is it sterile and clean? Unless you live in a bubble, no. There are things that you're inhaling that you do not want to be sitting in your lungs. From particulate matter to pathogens to whatever. Bronchus-associated lymphatic tissue is helping to clear things out and get rid of things. So it's one of the ways your lymphatic system is helping out your respiratory system. So together, both the bronchus-associated lymphatic tissue, BALT, and then mucosal-associated lymphatic tissue, MALT, together those two protect the respiratory and the GI tract of your system. So let's look at the overall picture, kind of sum things up here. Where are the lymphatic organs in the body? We have the tonsils right around the oral cavity, so kind of protecting what's coming in that way. We then are going to have the thymus here. Thymus is superior and anterior to the heart, gets larger in childhood, and then atrophies throughout the rest of life. We have the spleen located just kind of up under the ribs here on the side. We then have all these yellow components scattered throughout the intestinal area. Those are going to be the Peyer's patches in the intestines, and then the appendix down in the bottom by the large intestine. They're not drawing in BALT or the bronchus-associated because they'll be more inside, just not included in the lungs. But all of this together is meant to help protect your body, protect your system. It's all part of your lymphoid organs. Now, you aren't seeing the actual lymphatic vessels or the lymph nodes because they simply would cover the entire thing up. So these are the ones that aren't tons and tons of them throughout the entire body, more specific organs. So your lymphatic organs working together to help make sure your body is a safer environment, preventing you from having constant infections.